You may have heard people talk about the water table before. The water table is the top of the groundwater reservoir in the subsurface, right? So it's the very top of that unconfined aquifer. And the water table, it's that line that separates the unsaturated zone above it. So the drier sediment above it still has lots of empty pore space, has yet to been filled with water, from the saturated zone below it, where pretty much all the pore space has been filled with water, right? It's full up. So the water table is just the height, that the top of the unconfined aquifer. And the water table can be right at the surface of the earth. It can be very, very deep within the earth, and the depth of the aquifer of that water table will vary. It varies based on a few things. The first is the shape of the land surface, the topography, right? So the water table is kind of a subdued replica of surface topography, meaning that where there's a mountain, the water table will also have a little bump. Where there's a valley, the water table will also dip down a little bit. Okay? So topography is a fairly good estimate of the shape of the water table, and it helps us figure out what direction the groundwater is flowing within that aquifer, which we'll talk about a little more later on. The depth of the water table can also be influenced by where aquatards are. So, right, where there's an aquatard, water will sit on top of that and not be able to percolate beneath it. That means if there's a local aquatard, an aquatard that doesn't extend for great distances, just a small little aquatard, it will actually catch water on top of it and create what we call a perched water table above the lower, more regional water table. You might have found this if you got to some of our barrier islands. Some of our barrier islands have small little freshwater lakes on them, and those little freshwater lakes are actually perched above the deeper groundwater table on some of our islands. Right. The water table, the depth of the water table also depends on seasonal weather and climate. Right? Anytime where there's a lot of rain, then the water table, the ground is going to saturate more with water, and the water table is going to rise, and it might cause our lake surfaces and our rivers to increase in depth. But then if the climate changes, we get to drier weather, a drier season, and that water is going to evaporate. The depth of the lake is going to fall. The depth of our rivers is going to fall as the water table sinks deeper and deeper into the ground. Which means that the depth of our water table rises and falls with variations in seasonal rainfall. During hurricane season down here, when it's really rainy, our water table sits up close to the surface. It's not very far beneath our feet. If I dig a hole, I could probably make it to the water table. Whereas when it's a lot drier, the water table is going to sink down deeper into the earth. If I dug a hole, I might not be able to reach the water table during those dry months.